Hello, welcome to the first ever podcast on this channel. Uh, Hosting it is me, Oedipal, and our EU friend here, Dr. Nerd Rage, PhD in losing to children's card games on BoardGameArena.com. Hello, how are you?
Guten Tag, and
Yeah,
also that statement is not fact
it
for the
is
record.
fact. It is
No,
definitely fact.
no.
Okay, well, the topic today is Amazon's New World. A little late to the scene with the patch notes reading because we're reading something from March 16th, 2021.
Listen,
But
it's fine.
whatever,
It's
it's fine. It's totally fine.
it's Amazon's last standing MMO. We got time.
Yes, indeed. Um, so a little history on our experience with the game. I think we should kind of reveal that to people what we have
Yep. We
done
have
with
in
this
fact
game.
played it
Yes, we
before.
have played it before. We played it in almost all iterations that have come out from the very beginning. Do you remember when you were invited? It was years ago for me.
It was many moons ago. In
It
fact,
was,
it was like
yeah,
October-ish, November, maybe 2018. I
yeah.
recently looked it up in my email.
I
It's
think
been
I
a
was
while.
like maybe a year or two before you even, or something like that,
Okay.
because it was like the signups was on Amazon itself, like Amazon.com, and it wasn't through like
Yeah, you had to
the New
wish
World
list it,
website.
right?
Yes, you had to wish list it and do all kinds of shit. It was interesting sign up process. Um, but the first iteration we played was kind
It
of
was
like
it was a
standard.
very different game.
Yeah, it was standard survival MMO, kind of like Rust like, kind of that experience of going out and encountering PvP. You didn't choose whether you PvP'd or not. You just
Nope.
kind of encountered it if it came to you.
I felt quite a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah, I thought it was it gave a sense of danger to travel and to
Mhm.
hauling um
Yep.
materials back to your town to store. Um
I remember getting player killed by Mr. I don't know,
yes.
Triple X
Yes.
something killer.
With the questionable name. Um but we did get yanked by him. And it was fun and exciting. There was danger. You didn't know whether someone was a friend or a foe. Um, and if you found a friend, you were still kind of leery, even if they were in your group. You were just kind of like, "Are they gonna turn on us? I don't know."
I mean,
Um,
having you as a friend kind of,
hey, hey,
you know.
hey, hey there. So that was the first iteration. What did you think of that back then? Like, did you feel like that was a game that you could have played for months on end?
So if the alpha had ended there and the game hadn't changed, I would still be excited for it.
Yeah,
It was
just
different, I felt,
yeah,
to war like compared to the rest of the MMO world that we have nowadays.
yeah,
Um and I mean, for me, that first game or first MMO was Ultima Online, which had those same dangers. You would haul ore or like some magic loot, and some random dude would come up and just, they would gank you and kill you and take your stuff.
yeah.
And of course, that situation itself was not fun, but the excitement that it brought and the danger was, as you said, was pretty interesting. And I felt that. And just for that reason, I think alone, I definitely wanted to check it out again.
Yeah, because you and I have kind of very different, almost, well, not vastly different, but you had more experience with PvP games than I did. Really, the only truly PvP game that I played for like an MMORPG in an MMORPG sense was Shadowbane. Um,
Yep.
and I didn't play that long either. Um, but I understand kind of that excitement. I did play with a group, so it was a little bit different, maybe experience as a solo player. Um, but most of the time I play with a group, and you could mess around with people and lure them into your group and be like, yeah, we're a group and we're experiencing, and then steal or pickpocket, their money from them as they're grouping with us.
Yeah. Or just,
So
offer deals too good to be true.
yeah, yeah. So that it was an interesting experience, but I wouldn't say for me that it was enjoyable at the time, but I don't there was a reason I didn't stick with it.
Right. That's
Yeah,
always the case, right? We could all those games in some shape or form are still around, but we don't go back to them.
yeah.
They're just not. It's not the same. We probably don't have as much time to waste on, you know, on a run that takes 5 hours and then you end up dying and it's all gone.
Hmm.
And I think there's a reason that we don't
Yeah.
go back,
Oh,
and that's
I
probably
yeah.
the reason why maybe, as we've kind of insinuated, the game has changed a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the earliest PvP experience, I forget that the Realm, I don't know if you're familiar with that game. It was like a
Yes.
2D side scroller MMO RPG. And there was elements of PvP in it. Um, where if you go out of the safe zone or whatever, you can get ganked. And that was my first PvP experience, was going out somewhere and encountering this notorious guild called Mech, MECH, which
You
stood for
remember
something.
them
I
until
don't,
this
yeah,
day.
yeah, I still remember to this day. And I had a really cool sword that I had, and I was out just adventuring, and then encountered this guy, and he just wrecked the shit out of me, and he stole all my stuff, and I was very sad. So that was my first PvP experience, and being as young as I wasn't happy, of course. So I think maybe that's part of why I kind of just shied away from PvP games in
How
general.
old were you when that happened?
Oh, I don't know. When was the Realm? That was like before EverQuest even.
Mm-hmm.
So
Was that
like that
mid
was
'90s?
EverQuest. Yeah, I would say mid 90s.
Mm.
Yeah, whatever age that was. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I had friends playing Ultima Online, so I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And I was kind of prepared for it to happen at some point. And obviously, when it did happen, I wasn't too happy, but just kind of swore revenge. And then went down the path of, I would say, being a PK hunter, like a player killer hunter.
Hmm.
And then at some point became a player killer myself with some friends, and we started looting other people's places.
Hmm.
I mean, there was even drama within our IRL friend circle because like people were looting IRL friends.
Oh no.
It was rough.
Backstabbing happening.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. I
geez.
remember there was even a situation where we had basically looted someone's house of their possessions that somebody knew IRL. It was. I mean, teenage assholes,
Yeah.
definitely. So I've kind of been on both sides of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and both of those things have excitement, right? At least in Ultima Online, when you were the bad guy,
Hmm.
there were like harsh penalties for being a murderer in game. You would lose weeks and months of stats if you died.
Hmm.
Obviously, that brings adrenaline with it, right? When you're being chased. So, same feeling in New World, I would say. Um, at
Okay.
least in that first alpha.
Yeah, just circling back to our main topic here, New World. Your experience kind of made you like that experience a lot more than I did, but playing with a friend or playing with a group, I think enhances that experience for me for a PvP game, just because I know I'm not good at PvP. I get kind of nervous when I'm
Mhm.
solo. So like my thought process when trying to do combat and stuff is kind of gets um I kind of lose that thought process when trying to do that, do abilities and things. But with a group, I can focus a bit better because they're like, oh, they're handling that
Mhm.
guy. I can focus trying to do. Um, so it
Yeah,
was
you
a
don't
bit
have
more
to stay in that
enjoyable.
survival mode, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yep, yep. I get less nervous with a group of people, I guess.
Mm.
Don't try to say. But I did notice during my time in Eternum back then that it felt a little disjointed in a way that the game didn't feel like it had a focus. I don't know if you felt that. It wasn't
I guess so.
fully, yeah, it wasn't like full on out Rust experience or anything like that, but it also wasn't full on out MMORPG, and it was kind of
Yes,
that in
and
between mode that was happening.
yes, and there was also, I mean, you had on one part you had this kind of open world PvP stuff, then you had this almost completely separate, uh, like zone conquering type of PvP
Mm-hmm.
that we had in that first alpha. We had nothing to do with whatsoever.
Yep.
um, also felt a little weird. Like there's that avenue, but then this other part you
Yeah.
don't get to see. I mean, obviously, I guess that's the case in most MMOs. That price of the game you don't see until later, but still, in a game that was supposedly all about that, it was
Hmm.
surprisingly absent during that time.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and all the
yeah.
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the zones were, I mean, they were nicely designed and stuff, but
Hmm.
they also kind of felt disjointed. I feel
Yeah,
it was a bit of a mishmash.
I agree.
I
And
enjoyed that, but I don't know
despite,
how.
sorry, go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, keep going.
Um, I don't know how much longevity that would have had.
Right. I don't know at what point we joined that early phase of the game. Whether people have had kind of got their fill and we're just done with it. Um, Realistically, we didn't really encounter a lot of PvP when we played. It was very few encounters. We were mostly
Very few. Yes.
PvPing, and we didn't get to join any of those big battle things where the guild got to choose who got in or whatever. Um, so our experience with the PvP side of it, um, while the short bursts that we had were exciting, it we didn't have too many data points to be like, oh yeah, this is
Definitely. It was
quintessentially a PvP game.
for me, and during that time, that was pretty much absent.
Yeah.
I don't even remember seeing. I don't know, like something about it in chat or the log or whatever you saw.
Hmm.
Some zones were owned by some guilds or some forts, but that was pretty much it. And you had no reason to go there.
Hmm.
It was, I don't know, it was intriguing for nostalgia for me, but
Yeah.
like objectively, it was probably not a great game at that point.
Yep. It had inklings of potential is what I would boil that first phase down
Yes,
to.
yes, yes.
It's like all these systems in place that could go somewhere, but not quite cohesive enough to be anything amazing.
That
Okay.
sums it up
Yep.
for me.
So that was our experience for that first phase that we encountered of New World. Then we got into what was it last? Was it last year? Um,
I think it was 2019,
was it? Oh yeah,
honestly.
I'm feeling like it was 2 years ago. It feels like so. Last year is kind of a blur because of COVID. I feel
Yes.
like things happened and didn't happen at the same time. um, but
I think it was 2019.
it's I think so too. So 2019 we did the
I just double checked and it's December 2019.
so okay, so that's why it kind of bled into
Mhm.
2020 January. Okay. Um so we played the what was it? Like an alpha that was open to the public because you were able to stream it, right? It
It was
was
actually called an open beta test.
an open beta, which is weird because it's still in alpha. So
I think it
they
went
kind of
back
went
to
they went
alpha.
backwards in its phases. So it was like an open beta. A lot of streamers streamed it. I streamed it. We played it a ton, actually, many hours. So this was more they implemented more PvE aspects to it, and the
Definitely.
open PvP was no longer open, where instead you had to activate it and voluntarily engage in PvP rather than just go out in the world and encounter that randomly.
Correct.
They
If you want to be
still,
mean
yeah,
about it, it
yeah,
became a Care Bear game.
yes, basically. They still had the large scale PvP, but you had to do like a sign up process for it, so not everybody was able to be included in that.
Yes.
Um, like what is it, 50 versus 50, I think,
Yes, it
battle.
was. Yep.
Um,
But that wasn't until late game, if I remember correctly.
yes, but I think any level could join, right? As long as they were picked. But
True, but
but yeah, they
they just
wouldn't
weren't
just
picked.
pick. Yeah, it was um preferable that you were at the correct level so that you could perform better or whatever. Um, but in that iteration, we played a ton of hours of that.
Yes.
Um,
I was hooked
but
for
we
sure.
were like mid level or near end game. We didn't get to the last zone,
No.
but we were definitely hooked.
Um we were hooked for sure. And honestly, the PvP part, um, at least the instanced PvP part that was about zone conquering and that kind of stuff. I did that, but mostly for rewards, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all that fun. I mean, obviously, still early, was a bit laggy, very
Mm-hmm.
few frames, those kind of things.
Right.
Um, that I would say that part kind of reminded me a little bit of Dark Age of Camelot. Because Dark Age of Camelot also has these frontier zones that you fight over at big keeps with a lot of people,
Okay.
and it was very similar to that. Smaller scale, more condensed area, but still, it felt a little bit like that. Obviously, the zerging part, right?
Yeah. Um.
Because
I.
even
Yeah.
if at some point you fight a single person somewhere, there's always going to be multiple people joining into that fight. It's never going to be one on one in those
Mm-hmm.
situations. But overall, I would say that was a very small part of my playtime for this open beta
Right,
in
because we
2019.
did while we stayed we voluntarily turned on PvP for most of our sessions. Um, and we ran around in PvP flagged, doing our PvE quests and
And yeah,
PvP
and there
related
is
quests.
incentives for that, right?
Right. And we
So
did it mainly, I feel like, to get those incentives, right? That because you
yes,
got more rewards for being PvP and doing PvP quests, we were like, okay, wait, why don't we just stay PvP? Um, but the
which
actual
mm,
PvP content we did, it wasn't very much. It was like, I don't know, like 5% of maybe even less than,
maybe less, yeah.
yeah, than the hours we actually ran around PvP play. Um,
Yeah,
there
although
was,
I
yeah.
would say for me that's not a bad thing. If the game can incentivize a PvE player in that sense to
Mm-hmm.
um join the PvP player population, I'd say that's that's a good game design.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
Obviously, if it ends up swinging the other way and there's going to be a
right.
ton of people just PvPing, then nobody's going to turn it on. But that's always going to swing, right? With let's say time of day, those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it a better game overall.
Well, mentally, I think for the people who don't have experience in PvP or are kind of afraid of it, get nervous like I do. Um, you take out that element of surprise because when you turn on the flag manually, you know what you're getting into. Like you're expecting that sort of
That's
encounter.
definitely true. Yes.
So it's kind of like a peace of mind almost for the person going, okay, well, I chose to do this, so I expect this to happen, and I'm not going to be mad about it.
And I
um,
definitely had situations too where I didn't have as much time and I just wanted to get somewhere or do something and I
mhm.
would just leave it off, right?
Right. Yep. Yep. There
And
was
that's
definitely some moments where I had turned it off because I
yeah.
just wanted to mine peacefully or whatever. Um, so it's definitely got its the manual PvP on, PvP off toggle. It's got its ups and downs. Um, Obviously you lose that kind of grassroots excitement of olden days PvP like Ultima or the Realm or
Sure. Yeah.
Dark Age of Camelot, etc. Um, but it's more conscientious of your adult time whether you
Yeah,
want
you
to,
get rid
yeah,
of the drawbacks as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
So
there's a
um
reason I would say most MMOs are not like that anymore.
mhm. Yeah, and you could kind of see the shift in the company's vision for the game with that iteration.
Yes.
They realized maybe that going full on PvP wasn't the way because of like Care Bear outcry, whatever it was. They decided to go, okay, we'll lean more towards this PvE side. Maybe financially it makes more sense.
It is probably a good decision if you want to sell your game to a lot of people.
Yeah. Because it becomes less of a niche game, which I think full PvP games typically are.
And the
Um,
thing is, if I mean, that's just, it's not based on data, but my impression is if you market a game to those hardcore PvP players,
Mm-hmm.
they have such a broad spectrum of what they consider hardcore. Some want,
Yes.
I don't know, full loot, some want no loot, but always
Mm-hmm.
PvP. Some want factions, some want whatever guild wars, all kinds of things. You're never going to satisfy all of them. And
Yeah.
even if you did, it's probably not a player base worth catering to financially wise, for a
Mm-hmm.
company like Amazon
Yeah.
and a AAA game,
Yep. And I guess we
is my
didn't
impression.
touch on, just going back to the first iteration, we didn't touch on the fact that when you die, you did lose your equipment, except for what you had on your
Yeah,
bars, I believe.
exactly.
And then the second iteration we played, you died. I think, do you even lose anything? I don't really recall if you died in
I think you
PvP.
dropped some things,
You
yeah,
dropped
but
some things, but it wasn't
it
anything
wasn't. I
major.
mean,
Like, it wasn't
the fact that we
equipment.
don't remember
Yeah.
shows you
How
how-
insignificant of a drop it
yes,
was. Like, it wasn't like your full equipment or anything. It was probably like a percentage of the materials you're carrying.
I'm
Something
pretty
like
sure it
that.
was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they definitely changed that hardcore aspect of it. Um, so in terms of PvE, we did quite a bit of. There were the rift sort of things that were going on, which we farmed a lot, and
That
then
is
there were
true.
also the quest. Um,
Which we did quite a bit of the quests as well. Yeah.
yes, but then we found out that the rifts did a lot more, um, gave a lot more than the quests. So we started just completely just focusing on those at the end of our session there. I think just farming those rifts.
They weren't. I don't remember them as being very repetitive. It was.
Um,
I mean, obviously, it's kind of the same thing all the time, but I don't know. It was for me. It was fun. There were always different kinds of. Maybe there were different players on your own team.
mhm,
Maybe there were different enemy players. So it was always a little different. You didn't quite know what you would get to either, right? You didn't know what kind of rift it was
mhm,
all the time, and um, there was also that rush
mhm.
of getting there and doing some damage so you get the benefits.
Yeah,
And I think that kept it fresh, at least for the amount of time we played in that time.
yeah. But I mean, but there's definitely some repetition that happened. Of course, you can only
Of course, yeah.
create so much. What are your past experiences with that rift type content? Have you played anything like that before, or have you
Well,
experienced
honestly,
that?
it was probably just World of Warcraft.
Oh, because they had something like
Um,
that, didn't they? Was it?
they had stuff like that for a while. I don't remember which expansion it was.
There
Um,
was that. It was like in between expansions. It was like before an expansion came out, there was an event that happened
yes,
where Westfall would have
yes,
something
exactly.
happening, and then you would,
Something
yeah,
happening.
and then you would go there
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, I can't quite
yeah,
put a finger on the name of what it was, but
yeah.
that's what I think of when I think Rift from New World.
Mm-hmm. Um, When I think of Rift, I think of the MMORPG Rift, which I played quite a
All
lot of
right,
hours of.
I remember that one. I did play an alpha or beta of that, but
Yeah,
never quite played it a lot.
and that was the main focus of that game. So I did a lot of rifting in my time. Um,
But did you grow tired of those real quick, or
um, you know what? Yes, because after a certain point, it's just you're just farming the same thing over and over, and it's kind of
mm,
there's nothing exciting because it's just there's no challenge really, because once you learn how to do it, you've got enough people. The challenge is just
right?
how many people you have there and can you overcome that rift, because sometimes you don't
Mm.
have enough people, and that's you can't do anything like solo it, and that sucks. um
But the rifts in the game Rift,
yeah.
were they instances that you entered?
Oh no,
No.
no, they
Okay.
were open world. um Same with Guild Wars 2. um Guild Wars 2 had a similar rift system where it was like open world events.
Mm-hmm.
um And that was the meta for endgame or XP,
To farm
is to
those.
farm those. So you would just have this train of people, going, okay, go to this point, now go to this point, now go to this point. And it was just, it
Hmm.
got really tiring. And I felt like that was happening with our sessions sometimes because we would follow a group of people.
That is true. Yeah.
So,
There was a little mob would form, and then
yeah.
you would try to be at least as fast as those people
Hmm.
to get there.
Right.
Which is that rush that I meant, that kind of kept me going,
Hmm.
right? I don't know if that's a good thing, but it kept me from getting bored with it.
Mm.
I just had to be on my toes and keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Get the next one. Obviously, after a while, you say, "All right, maybe I'm done with this game for now."
Yeah.
Or this part of the game,
Just
maybe just go back to crafting or things like that. But um,
right. I do feel like the riffs were a little OP, but the
yeah,
words that it gave you, because it made other content almost obsolete. Um, but I don't know
I would
whether
agree
that
with that.
was their
I did
intention or
not.
not.
I don't remember any of the quests at all.
No, they were not memorable
I don't even
because yeah,
remember what the quests were like, to be honest.
yeah.
Um, I mean, obviously, some MMOs set different standards.
Hmm.
WoW quests, for example, are often pretty entertaining, funny, even. Um, but I don't think it has to. They have to be. I mean, obviously, they should be good, and it makes for a better experience. But overall, it's about the end game and getting there. And I don't mind having alternatives. If some people want to do the quests, sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a subset of people that want that story, that immersion and stuff like that with quest text and following a storyline. And I think there is an overarching storyline in New World. I just don't know what it is.
Me
I
neither.
think it has to do with something with those rifts because they're everywhere, and I'm sure they're fighting back against it, or the citizens of the world are fighting back against it. But where it came from, or why it's there,
Yeah, I don't
and
remember any of that
what's
at
causing
all.
it, I have no clue.
I remember
Um,
being sent to some places, like some towers and those kind of things, but
yeah,
otherwise, yeah, it was pretty much all about the rifts.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was basically our second iteration experience. Had a lot of PvE, some PvP skirmishes that were exciting, maybe not so exciting. Um,
I
but
enjoyed them.
definitely a lot of riffs. And I know streamers, because I watched quite a bit of streamers playing it too. Uh, they definitely focused on the rifting part of it because it just gave so much more rewards.
Yes, it was. I
Um,
mean, both in terms of loot and XP, if I remember correctly.
mhm. And there weren't any dungeons per se.
Hmm.
There were like buildings to go into and things like that. And there was one instance dungeon, I think, that existed in that iteration, and it was like an end game one. So we didn't get to experience that at
Yes,
all, unfortunately. But from what I saw, it looked pretty challenging, hard to get to. It looked pretty interesting. Um, I'm looking forward to trying Dungeons out, which the March patch notes here is saying is going to be more of. So
dungeons,
yeah,
as
more
they
dungeons.
refer to them as expeditions.
I, is it
Is that a
expeditions?
dungeon?
Whatever they refer it to, it's still uh, a dungeon, as we call it in the MMORPG world, where you go into an instance that is reserved just for your group, and you,
Yes, we can go by the generic
yes,
name of dungeons.
fight through and get to a boss and then get your loot. That's pretty much what a dungeon is.
MMO dungeons in a nutshell.
All right, so that's our past experience with New World. Let's kind
Hmm.
of look
Do
forward.
you have any
Yeah.
current experience with New World? Have you
No,
received an invite?
no. I think the EU alpha is currently happening under NDA this time.
Why am I?
Um,
Where's my invite,
I don't
Amazon?
know.
Where's my invite?
You're in EU. What's going on?
Yeah, what
Um,
is going on?
you
I don't
know,
know. Maybe my
where's
Amazon
my
account
invite? I'm
is
technically
stuck
EU
in limbo.
with my relationship with you, so
Technically, this is where the NordVPN
yeah, the
sponsorship
NordVPN.
comes in.
Speaking of sponsorships, there is none. But if you want to sponsor me,
Yeah, so there is an alpha going on, or a
there
beta.
is.
Who knows what it is?
With the current iteration of the game where they have made. So let's talk about real quick about the Amazon pushing the dates of release because it was supposed to release this year, March or spring
was
20.
that was that the
Wait,
first
wait,
release
wait.
date though?
Was it?
I'm
Oh wait, no, no,
pretty
no.
sure it
It was
had
supposed to be
several.
March 2020 or something, right? It was supposed to be.
It was
Was it
May
2020?
2020.
May 2020, and then it
May
got
2020.
pushed. I think this is going to be either the fourth or a third release date that they currently have, which is the August 2021.
Correct. And we've seen other Amazon Game Studios titles drop off the radar recently or in the recent
Yes.
months.
So it's a little
And
worrying.
so far, this one still seems to be standing, but
Yes, it seems to be. Because recently just lost or they just lost the Lord of the Rings MMORPG that they were making or going to be making. And they've had several projects now that they've released, but kind of just flunked.
yep, there was a Crucible, which is a
Crucible, yeah.
third person
Was it?
shooter.
Yeah. And there was that. Did they have a mobile one as well?
Um, I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But there was also Breakaway, which was like it was like a ball team sport game.
It's sad that I can't visualize what these games are because they were just so
it was
terrible.
it was pretty bad. I did actually play it, and it was not a good game. There is a
Yeah.
reason. It was a little MOBA-ish, so maybe that's the one you're referring to.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. But they were terrible enough that they just crashed basically. And Crucible, I think, supposedly went back into some sort of beta phase or reworking phase. I have no idea, but they're still working on that. Maybe, maybe not, or they just
I
cancel it
mean,
entirely. I don't know.
I would say those games were pretty far along, and Crucible probably had quite a bit of money pumped into it.
Yeah, they probably want to salvage that.
Um, and I mean, considering that they're even canceling a Lord of the Rings MMO, I mean, even if it's a mediocre game, you could probably make quite a bit of money.
Yeah, because
So I
that's
don't
a
doubt.
that's a really large IP they're canceling.
Yes,
Like, did they already spend the money to buy that IP or to purchase the rights to
maybe
that
the
IP?
decisions weren't financial. Who knows? But
Yeah.
um, I'm just saying I have no doubts that if they don't see a future for New World, they will still cancel it despite the long development time.
Yeah.
I don't hope they do. I want to play it, but
Yeah, for sure. Open beta July, apparently. Or is it closed beta? I don't know. If you pre-order, you get guaranteed access for the July beta.
hashtag ad.
Hashtag ad. Um, don't pre-order, kids. It's bad. Don't
Right.
do it.
Let me pre-order real quick.
You pre-order right now. Okay.
I mean, I might as well. I shouldn't, but I'm gonna play the
You're gonna
game
play it
anyway.
anyway. You might as well get the
Yeah,
pre-order rewards.
I
Why
might as
not?
well.
Oh, you're one of those. All right, so
I
let's
mean,
jump into the patch notes here. Oh, we won't go through every single one because this is a lot. It looks like they made a lot of changes, maybe for the
mhm.
good. I don't know. We don't have access to the current iteration. We don't know how these play or what it will be like. We can only speculate. Okay. You added a new zone. Starting from the top here, it's just
That
new
they
zone.
did Eben Scale Reach.
Urban Scale Reach. Yes, it's very Asian themed with
Are
the
you excited?
the lanterns and the lions everywhere.
It's
Um,
Pandaria, but not.
I did not play the Pandaria expansion, so I don't
Oh,
have fond memories of that expansion at all. Like,
well, you get to do it in the world now.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't really have like any being an Asian myself. I don't go like, ooh, there's an Asian themed zone or area in the world. Like I don't get that excited about that. But I mean, it looks
Well,
very
you should.
pretty.
There's never any German zones. Never any like beer, pretzels,
What do
lederhosen.
you mean?
Never.
Oh, you know, too bad for you.
Maybe in a future expansion.
Go make your own MMORPG then. But looking at the screenshots, like graphically from first iteration to now, I would say they've improved lighting a lot. Um, but as far as like graphic fidelity goes, I think it's pretty much the same. Maybe
I
some
would say so.
improvements with like the gear, how the gear looks and stuff. But overall, environmentally and such, graphically, it's still, it still looks very good.
It did even in that first alpha. It looked good,
Yeah,
and
it looked good. So it's got
especially things
that.
like foliage, those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things,
Yeah,
which they're showing here on the screenshots.
yeah,
Always
like
used to look good. Still looks good on this.
yeah, like this one with the trees and like
Yep.
the purple leaves and stuff. Nice, good with the lighting,
Looking
god
forward
rays and
to
such.
exploring that zone.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So it's more of an end game zone. It looks like for it's intended for level 51 and above.
That is
Um,
definitely in game.
and obviously new enemies, etc. Scrolling down, new expedition, Garden of Genesis. So expedition dungeon. They've added a new dungeon
It
to the
is
game.
probably a dungeon,
Yeah.
and it seems to be. Um, I wonder if it is it the same kind of theme or is it a different one?
Oh, you mean for like the Asian theme or just the zombie villagers theme?
Which
Which
is the
theme do
two
you
themes
mean?
that have been. I mean,
Maybe.
you raise a good point. The theme has been zombie villagers quite a bit.
Yeah. It's just like this this corruption is consuming the world and it's turning citizens into what
Yeah,
seem to
I
be
mean, the Garden of Genesis kind of implies a nature theme, and the description does mention the birthplace of angry earth and restoration of the garden, purging the blight.
right.
Um, this could be a nature themed
Yeah.
expedition.
Uh, Look out for some treants
Yep,
and maybe some poisonous blobs.
always the poisonous
Always
blobs,
the
but will
poisonous
they
blobs.
multiply? Who knows?
That would be quite exciting if it did.
No, please, no more. Never in any game anymore. I don't like them.
All right. So general section. A new first version of Outpost Rush. A new 20 versus 20 endgame PvP game mode. So down from 50 versus 50. I assume a
Right?
separate mode
Smaller
entirely.
scale.
Yep, smaller scale. Um, so
They,
that's
they
kind
do
of
say
interesting.
that they'll be providing more info on this. There's no
Yeah,
description of it whatsoever, but Outpost Rush could have something to do with
yeah,
conquering outposts. I mean, outposts are the names of those of the
right.
outposts, right? That's the name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 50-50 versus 50 was already a rush of a sort where there
Yes,
were
it was always
capture
an
the
attacker and
flag
defender
sort of thing.
situation.
Yeah. Um, but maybe with the less players on the map, it's less Zerg rush and more tactical combats, maybe little, 2
Could
v
be.
2 skirmishes or 5v5 skirmishes.
Well,
Um,
we'll see how that applies
yeah.
when it's in the game. What's the difference? Does it does this get triggered by a different type of conquering, or is it just when less players are online?
Hmm.
We'll see what niche it fits into.
Yeah, hopefully a little less chaotic because I think I had joined the 50 versus 50 with you,
Mhm.
and it was a bit laggy, chaotic.
Yes,
Um, yeah, it was a little too much, I think.
there's quite a bit going on. Yeah,
Yeah. New armor and weapon quests. Did any exist with the iteration that we did? I don't remember.
I don't think so. I don't remember specifically those quests. They mention a journey to craft and obtain rare armor and weapons.
Right, starting at level
Um,
40, so kind of the mid
yeah.
level, you know, leading up to end game. Maybe you get it at like level 50 or something.
They do add a developer's note saying that this is not in contention for best in slot. So
Okay,
it's probably just to get you going into endgame,
that's true.
possibly.
Hmm.
Uh, but definitely going to be replaced.
I like that. I enjoyed. EverQuest had a weapon quest line. It took arduously long time to do.
Hmm.
Um, it was
I mean, these have
painful.
existed in other MMOs as well. I'm
Yeah.
thinking in World of Warcraft, you had um, just from my point of view, I was playing a priest, and it was Benediction and Anathema, the
Hmm.
switchable staff.
Yeah.
Um, could be one of these things. Could be generic ones. I don't know if these are class specific. It doesn't
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
So
It'll be interesting to see because if they make it difficult enough, it'll be one of those prestigious things like when you got it in EverQuest, you did go through that long journey and obtain that weapon, and it had a visible. Not many weapons did, but these quest weapons, they had visible particle effects when you equipped them.
right.
So like if you're wearing them and people saw you, they knew that oh you did that crazy quest that took a long time, and it was very prestigious, and you're pretty badass for doing it. Um, I would guess the
These
same for
these
being server first for
could be
Anathema, for
similar.
example. Yeah.
Yep.
So this could be similar. I don't know. I think it would be cool if they went that way. Um, it's not best in slot, but maybe having that model in your hand, um, hopefully they look really cool because then you could just show it off in town or whatever. I would prefer it if it went that way because if it's not going to be a best in slot, you kind of need an incentive to do it.
That's definitely true. But if it's not best in slot, I don't know if isn't that a bit wasted content or opportunity? I don't know.
I think
It could
it's
still
a
be it still could be competitive, but not
right.
best in
It,
slot.
if you finish it in like maybe it lasts for two, the quest itself lasts for 2 levels, and then the weapon itself will last you 10 levels. That's a decent amount of levels at end game because it did
Well,
feel long.
if we keep reading on the patch notes, it
Yeah,
does mention that you sort of get guided through it, and each there's successive quests that take you to level 60.
right. I mean, it's kind of like the Final Fantasy 14 has the same system with weapon questing
Mhm.
where it's really just about the model. It has nothing to do with being best in slot because rating gives you that best in slot, but it's only being able to apply that transmorg into your current weapon because definitely those quest weapons look cooler for sure.
Well,
Um,
I'm not a big fan of transmogrification,
yeah, I
as
know.
WoW calls it,
Yeah,
or basically
right,
skinning your equipment.
right.
I really like and enjoy when characters show the actual
I
equipment that
agree.
they're wearing.
Yeah, I agree. This is why it
And
kind of disappoints me that it's not going to be best in slot. Um, so
well, but I
but they have this dilemma, right? Because they want crafting to be good. That's the
of
main
course,
point. So they can't
and I would say it is
overshadow.
good.
They won't. They can't overshadow that with some quest line because then everybody's just gonna stick with the quest line and just do that and not craft anything. I feel like because that
Absolutely agree.
right because that's
Absolutely
yeah.
agree.
So
To me, the best MMOs have been where crafted items were top of the line
yeah.
in terms
Um,
of the economy of the game.
I would say opposite experience for me, except for Star Wars Galaxies, but we don't
Hmm.
talk about that game. It was a
Well,
hot mess of a game, but still, it was um crafted
back
things. Yeah,
then, all the MMOs were hot messes.
yeah. Um, but for my experience of Best in Slot, it's always been rating for when I rated top end or had
Well, you
in
can
game
still
experience.
acquire materials from that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, for maybe for some weapons, and they can both be on a similar level, I would say.
Yeah,
Um, but if I always enjoy if an MMO has a healthy crafting economy. To
yeah.
me, that's a big plus.
Did you feel like it did when we were playing that second iteration? It's hard
There
to
were
tell
signs. There were
because
signs of
yeah,
that, I would say,
right. It's hard
but
to tell because it's
obviously,
such
yeah,
a short time span, right? I think
absolutely.
economy gets established once people are into endgame and where they're at in the levels. Um, but it's hard to tell with that economy
Yeah,
in that
I don't
situation.
think I would guess the drawbacks don't immediately show
Yeah.
themselves in such a
Mm-hmm.
short period of time.
All right. Well, this is a wait and see situation. Hopefully, it's a cool quest line. The models look cool and lasts you for a bit before you get into endgame. That'd be nice.
It would be.
Yep. And in addition to weapon quests, there's also armor quests, so that's kind of cool too. I don't remember there being or playing an MMO where I had armor quests. Um, that's cool. Kind of just having a set that goes together.
Yep.
It looks very
Yep.
cool, very iconic for that
And it seems
class.
like you get this set, you build this set over time, going from level 40 to 60. You get a
Mm-hmm.
different piece every few levels.
Yeah, sounds cool. I mean, just another PvE thing to work towards if you're not into like crafting or something like.
And they do say that the recipes are they don't have a skill requirement. So even if you're not, you don't have to be a crafter
Mm-hmm.
to make these. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
Maybe that'll get people interested in crafting. I don't know.
yeah. Who knows? I mean, I had fun with crafting.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
I mean, it wasn't anything like Final Fantasy XIV's crafting, which is very very involved. Because it's a whole different game itself. But it was
I
gathering the
felt it was
materials and crafting it and doing all the
I
different
felt it was pretty involved, but
installation.
obviously I haven't played Final Fantasy 14.
Oh no, do
But
you actually crafting in Final Fantasy 14 is each like a tailor or whatever, it's its own class. You get abilities for it, like actual hotbar abilities.
all
So
right, that's too
yeah,
much.
yeah. So you actually have to like do be active in your crafting rather than just press one button.
I
It's a
mean,
bit more
in
involved, yeah.
coming from or back to Ultima Online again, I know, broken record and stuff, but the crafting skills took up your maximum amount of skill points.
Mm,
So that was directly competing with your fencing or swordsmanship or whatever you had, healing. Obviously, in most cases, people just had different characters for different purposes.
yeah.
So you had your blacksmith, miner, or carpenter, whatever you wanted. But um, basically, you had a character that was his main job or main identity was crafter.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this to you before where I like the idea of having somebody or a few people on the server who are renowned for their crafting abilities. And I don't think
Yes.
that's going to happen with this game just because crafting at that level is available to everybody and there's not a restriction to it.
Well, the
Whereas,
restriction is time and effort, right?
sure, yes, but eventually you can get to that point of crafting those things yourself. Whereas, um, like Ultima, um, and I think Request 2 had it in a certain way. You had to allocate points. you had to choose which direction you're going in. Are you going combat or are you going full
Yeah.
crafting? And you can't do both. And in this
And
game, you can.
some games limit you. Maybe they do split combat and crafting, but then they will limit you with the direction that you have to choose in crafting. Let's
Hmm.
say you can be the smith and the perfect tailor.
Yes. Yep.
I did like the crafting where you had different materials that would give you different effects on the weapon.
Hmm.
I felt there was a lot of choice to be
Yeah,
made,
it was good.
but I'm pretty sure we'll get to crafting in this.
Yes. Progression updates. Um, Decreased XP required to level from level 8 to 60 by 10%. Feel like it was too slow.
No, I did not.
I don't. I
But
guess people did because they lowered the amount required to level. A little bit disappointing.
I mean, I don't 10%. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference
Yeah.
to me. I don't mind. I don't mind honestly.
How about this one? Decrease XP from PvP faction missions by 5% to 18%. So even
Aha.
less
So you
of
got to
an.
see those
Yeah.
together, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? So it
Yep.
takes less XP to level overall, but you also get less from PvP faction missions.
Right. It's almost like
Now,
they're going, stop doing PvP, guys. What are you guys doing?
well, they were
Why?
pretty lucrative.
They were, but it's not like the whole server was going PvP. There was still like what 90% PvE versus 10% PvP on the server.
For
It,
all we know, the meta
yeah,
might have changed, all right?
yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? Amazon knows. Send me an invite.
Yes, I mean, send us an invite. What the heck? We've been at 2 iterations now. What about this iteration, huh? You need like all the data points. Come on.
Seasoned veterans, all right.
Hey, what's up? We're recording a podcast, so excuse me if I don't talk to you guys directly.
Ruined.
It's fine. Don't worry. We can take viewer questions at the end. um, okay, so players killing weaker creatures now suffer diminishing returns on XP gains of 40% for creatures 10 to 19 levels below them and 80% for 20 plus levels below. I
The
mean,
fact that you still get XP at all for creatures 10 to 19 levels below you,
yeah, that's weird.
I mean, fine, whatever. I don't care. I don't think that applies. Maybe there's ways or I don't want
Yeah,
to say exploits, but methods of farming a lot of mobs.
yeah. I like this one. Adjusted the level range at which enemies present to player with a skull icon, indicating that they are high above the player's level and should be treated with caution. Previously, the skull icon was displayed when an enemy was 6 plus levels above the player. It is now displayed when an enemy is 10 plus levels above the player. Because we did run into these mobs that had skull, but we didn't quite know what level they were. So it's kind of like
Yes.
if we knew we had a chance, we would attempt them more, right?
But the skull,
But we kind
yeah,
of avoided them mostly because we were just like, we're just gonna get stomped. We don't know.
that's true. Although 6 levels above, I remember correctly, was still pretty tough, no matter
Yeah, it was
the
really
skull or
tough.
not.
Um, there were a few situations where we tried them and
I would
it
say it
actually
kind of
worked.
depended on the type of enemy. Those I remember those wolves still.
Yeah. Oh
Those
yeah, the wolves.
depending on which type of enemy mob it was, could get pretty tough.
Yeah, there was that one bear that was fairly near town. Um, that was pretty hard.
And there were also, I mean, just the humanoid mobs. There were those shielded mobs. They were also quite tough to deal with. Whereas other ones, even a few levels above you, you could deal with easily.
Hmm.
And obviously, it always depends on how many there are.
Yeah. All right. So loot and gear. Kind of just skipping around here. I don't want to go through every single bullet point. There's a lot to take in. Adjusted drop logic so that weapons are more likely to drop with attributes that are more directly relevant to the weapon. Do you recall being frustrated by the stats on weapon drops?
No, no, I'm. I wasn't. I don't remember being
I don't
frustrated, but
recall either, but maybe that's more of like a like more people were annoyed by it at endgame because maybe they were at the point they were looking for specific stats where we were kind of just looking for power upgrades still. Because that's more of like an
definitely
endgame
true.
problem, right?
Yes,
Um,
and I would say that's a good way to reduce frustration
yeah.
when it comes to that.
Although I kind of like I like ARPGs like, you know, PoE and Diablo and stuff like that where um stats on things, weapons or whatever armor, it's just totally random and you might get a sword that has
Hmm.
caster stuff on it, but maybe that sword with caster stuff on it is good for a specific build. But because of the nature of this game, it's not, you don't have that level of build freedom, I feel like, as a
That's true.
typical ARPG like PoE. So I think it makes sense to make that change for this game.
In the end, this all depends on how balanced are all those different attributes, um, and does it make a big difference? Am I
Mm-hmm.
happy about an overall increase?
Yeah,
Does it matter that much? We'll have to see.
I think it will definitely allow you to reach the build you're trying to make faster with this sort of change.
Yes,
And that could be only a good thing because then you can figure out, you know, they can figure out balancing where, oh, people are gravitating towards this build because it's OP or whatever.
I agree. I mean, it could also lead to people being done with the game quicker
That's
overall,
true
right?
because the
But that's
chase,
always
yeah, the loot
that's always the
chase.
fickle balance
Mm-hmm.
of loot chase versus when
Right.
does the frustration set in.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, I'm kind of in the middle about this. Like, I like the loot chase. So for me, I couldn't really care about this change either way or the other. Like, I like finding that jackpot drop of perfect stats that happen to drop
Of
on the
course, of
sword or
course.
whatever.
There are a few smaller changes here, but one thing that stands out to me is that all equipable items are now either bind on equip or bind on pickup. Before, you were able to pass on an item that you had used in some cases, depending on where the item came from.
Oh,
But
that's
now,
true.
whenever you have something equipped, for sure, you cannot pass it on anymore, which I think is good for the economy, and they seem to
Right.
think so as well.
Well, it removes those items from the market.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because there was just too many copies of everything on from what I saw on the market that was there. Um so yeah, this keeps
So again, I know circling back to Ultima Online,
yeah.
um, the economy there worked quite well because while nothing got bound to you, everything had durability and it did get destroyed. Some things got destroyed quicker than others,
Hmm.
and repairing was not always possible. And whenever you did repair, it lost total durability. So there was a loss to the total amount of items in the game, right? Which fueled the economy.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that change. It's a good change. Um let's see. Loot and gear, standard stuff. It's always gonna change, balancing and such. I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Yep.
Crafting and gathering. Here we go. This is what we spent most of our time on last time we played, I think. When
Definitely
when we
mining a
weren't,
lot.
yeah, when we weren't doing quests and doing the what do they call the rifts in this game? I just call them rifts because that's
Um,
what I know them as.
you know what? I don't
And
remember.
that's kind of what they are, is a rift in the world where things come out in a way. But what invasions, I think, is what they're called, right? Invasions. I think I remember now.
Invasions
Invasions,
is
yes.
is is the right word.
Yeah,
Yes,
invasions. So we spent much of our time doing invasions, questing, and a lot of crafting and gathering for sure.
a lot of gathering for sure. Yeah.
Um, Updated drop rates for rare gathering resources. We never got to the point that endgame gathering though, where we were looking out for these super
It's true.
rare
It's true.
stuff. So can't really talk my experience on that.
It does
But
mention though that the drops are more heavily impacted by luck bonuses from food and armor, which is also something I like. It gives more
yes,
purpose to food, for example.
yeah. I do remember wearing the luck equipment, like the mining
Yeah.
equipment and
Mhm.
stuff, and it did make a difference for
It
sure.
was a it was one of the rare cases in one of those games or RPGs where you felt the impact 100%. You
Yes,
know
for
how a
sure.
lot of games have plus luck, something like that, and you never really seem to notice it. But here it was definitely noticeable.
Hmm. And then dropping a quantity range instead of just a single
I
item.
remember
Yeah.
there being that difference of you would mine an ore and you would get just the ore,
Hmm.
or if you had a certain amount of that equipment, you would definitely at least get one gem or something
Hmm.
with those things. And I really like the way they did the gathering in this.
Yeah. Let's see. Added a new set of crafting modifiers that enable you to apply a specific attribute roll to an item when crafting. Interesting, because I don't think we were able to do that.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Because it was just
And
random when you
that's
crafted, right? Everything was kind of just random except the gems
the
that you
gems
applied.
and yeah, yeah.
Stats were kind of just like, whatever,
Which
here
this
you
is
go.
I think this is a good change again. Giving you a little more
It's a lot more player
choices to
agency.
make in yep, in crafting.
Yeah. Take notes, PoE.
And there's also another point here that they're changing in that precious metals kind of need more mundane metals also. They mentioned, for example, Singer
Mm,
ingots are now mixed with gold ore to create gold ingots
okay.
to keep demand for the more mundane ones
Right,
up and not,
because
you know.
yeah, there is that problem of when you outlevel certain materials,
Hmm.
like the player base kind of shifts from beginning progression in crafting, and then as people level up together in the server, it shifts towards like middle to end game, and then kind of that early game materials gets left behind, right? Nobody
Yes,
has it, so the prices spike up because nobody's there
I
to farm
yeah.
it.
To me, this sounds like a good change.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of crafting stuff. Anything that stands out to you that you want to discuss? It's just a lot of changes here and there.
I mean, again, they do increase the attribute bonuses provided by food, so
Mm-hmm.
more food buffs,
Yeah.
um, more better buff durations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sounds like they've put in some work in making food a better
Yeah.
part of the game, I would say.
It's great for those that like to cook in video games.
I wonder who that
I
would be.
wonder who that would be. I think um Ro, my boyfriend, is the person that would probably be more excited about cooking than I am in general.
Even more?
Even more. Um,
Wow.
but yeah. But one thing I'm really excited about is the addition of fishing, which did
I
not
see that.
exist. Yes. So it currently exists, um, and it's already been in some sort of fashion. So the fact that
Fishing's
they're
always a
polishing it,
great addition to any game.
yes. Do you like fishing in video games?
I do. And I know this is a little. I didn't play this game much, all right? But Arc Age has great fishing. If you're looking for a great MMO to fish in,
Yeah,
check out Arc Age.
yeah.
If this is the gold, to me, that's the gold standard.
That's the gold standard. I don't think we'll
Yeah.
get anything like that in this game.
I don't think so
Um,
either.
but anytime there's fishing, I'm there. I love fishing in
Hey,
video games. It
well,
doesn't matter if it's just like a one-click thing.
get ready for
Um,
special fishing poles
um,
and
and
fishing armor.
oh shit,
Fishing armor.
Heck yeah. Give me
I
that
hope it's
fishing
just like
armor.
a tuna head that you wear or something.
I would be perfectly fine with that.
I know you
I'll
would.
just walk around with a tuna
I
head
know.
all day long with my fishing pole.
I know.
It'd be so great. Just chilling out by the beach, fishing. That's the life.
That's the life. You know what helps with fishing? Their next update.
Oh, a
They're
inventory
making
update?
changes to the inventory.
Yeah, the UI. Did you have a problem with the UI before? Did you feel like it was clunky or anything like that?
I'd say neither bad nor good.
I
It
think
was okay.
aesthetically it looks great.
Yes,
Um,
I 100% agree.
yeah,
But I've had better usability
I
experiences.
agree. Yeah. So any UI upgrades they can do, always a good thing in MMORPGs. Just great quality of life changes in general. Um, for UI. Anything to make that aspect easier for us to manage our inventory. I love
Yep.
it. Good. I mean,
Yep.
it looks great.
Definitely. We had a lot of weight kind
Ah,
of jostling around. It's
yes,
definitely one of those games
yes.
where you need to keep that in check. But it wasn't at a point where it got annoying while playing. It was really just annoying. Not annoying, but you had to put some thought in when
Mm-hmm.
crafting, trading, moving stuff.
Yeah,
Which to me I think is viable. Um is it was still fun. I had no issues with that system.
yeah. Looks good though. Combat.
Ooh.
Ooh, combat. All right. AI combat upgrades. Okay. I mean, that's always a plus. Make enemies
Mhm.
harder, more cerebral to fight, some tactics involved.
And I mean, I remember playing that first alpha, and
Mm-hmm.
those enemies, they weren't maybe the super smartest, but they were not easy.
No, they were
Um,
tough. There was
and
tough
there's
enemies.
definitely in this game there's tough enemies,
I mean, they've mentioned several times now a lot of their influence comes from Dark Souls series. So
and
it,
you do see it. Yeah,
yeah, and you definitely see that influence in there.
lot of rolling.
Yeah, a lot of rolling. Um, Potions now have a cooldown timer. They didn't before because you just kept chugging, which made PvP annoying.
Yep, yeah,
Um,
that's a good change.
yeah, good change. Uh, Default
See this?
block angle. Wait, what? What are you saying?
That is an interesting change. Yeah.
The default block angle?
Mm-hmm.
Front 180 degrees. Previous angle of front 90 degrees. Sometimes allow hits through even when it visually looked like an attack was blocked. What do you think of this? It makes
Um.
sense for like a visual confirmation point of view because you might get that
Exactly.
frustration of going, wait, I was facing that way. I was definitely blocking, but it still hit me. So you kind of
Yeah, I think
eliminate
that's
that.
probably the source of this change.
Yeah.
It it seems like it would make it easier to block.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of effect it has.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, survivability has gone down with the change prior with the potions,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll have to see.
Um, Melee attacks, update functionality, have should now have more consistent hits against shorter enemies or enemies that are above or below you on an incline, resulting in fewer misses while attacking. It sounds like just like a hitbox update. Which is good.
That's a good change.
Yeah,
I do remember I kept using the axes. I don't know if you were,
I did some of the axes. Yep,
but I
meta.
kept running into that issue a lot.
Yeah, because it's always been kind of the problem with these type of games where it's not tap target and you have to actually aim to
Yeah,
hit. It's like slopes and stairs and things like that usually cause issues with hitboxes.
definitely missed a lot of combos
Yeah,
because of this.
so things to fix that. Great.
Just yeah, less frustration with that. I
Mm-hmm.
think is good.
Yeah, I mean, combat is their main like selling point. I think.
It is, and I think it does a good job.
Yeah,
To me, the combat was very fun,
yeah,
no matter which state of the alpha. So this just, if that serves that goal,
Hmm.
then that's good.
Yeah, because you're gonna be spending 90% of your time, unless you're
Yep.
just crafting, um,
Yep.
in combat. So if your combat isn't fun, I even make the game.
Now we see another change here that mentions damage scaling by attribute points. And I think that is also a good change.
Hmm.
It makes you focus more on a build,
Yes.
is my impression.
I think there was a meta going on where,
Hatchet meta.
yes, but also attribute meta where it was just like, just put it into whatever attribute gives you the most um
That's true. That's
damage.
true.
Because
Yes.
if you're PvPing, you kind of want to do as much damage as you can before they can to you. And if you can one shot somebody, that's even better, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Now, when I
yeah.
think of weapons in New World, there was definitely an issue when it comes to ranged weapons, for example. I
Yeah.
remember trying the rifle, and there was just not a lot of damage there compared to something like the hatchet.
Yeah, balancing. Yeah.
I'm interested to see um, how that factors into that.
Yeah, I agree. Armor changes. Anything in there? Just some changes to scaling.
Yep.
Reduced armor
Oh
for
well,
shields. Interesting.
that is something I do remember. The shields definitely had a big impact on armor.
Yeah,
Also keep in mind blocking is now easier, so
right. Shield
I would
meta.
say this makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Oh, shield weights have been standardized across tiers. Oh, I guess that would make sense because the weight with the because there is equipment weight and inventory weight, having a heavier shield
Mhm.
would be frustrating if you kept going over that weight limit. But
Makes sense.
that's a good thing because you want to encourage players to use equipment that they want to use, right? So if they're a
Yep.
shield person, you don't
Should
want
not
them
be a reason for
frustrated.
frustration. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got some equip load changes.
Right, and we mentioned before that we had some juggling issues with the equipment load. You know, I felt
Correct.
like I always was conscious of it. It was always there while we were adventuring, going, oh wait, we got to go back to town. I'm
Yes.
almost full. I'm gonna be overweight.
So for context, although there is a like a weight limit,
Yeah,
it's not, you can move, and when you're full you can't move. There is a gradual change,
yeah,
and this is what they call equip loads.
yeah.
So basically, the lighter you are, the you get a bonus for damage, and the heavier you are, the more prone you are, it seems, to things like CC.
Oh, right, right, right. Okay, I misread that. Thank you for correcting.
No problem.
Um, no, that's good because the different class types. If you want to be a lighter slash medium equipment person, now you have these
There
incentive
is
to wear it.
a very strong incentive. They mentioned 20% damage bonus.
Yeah,
That
that's
is a lot.
right. I mean, you're still squishier because you don't have that same armor value as a
Yep.
medium or
It's
heavy.
that glass cannon build, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe more of a like a back range archer build going on for that.
Maybe. Depends on if the rifle damage is better.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll try it out.
Grit changes. What was grit again? Was that a an attribute or was that a
They were sort
stat?
of unstoppable attacks
Okay.
that you couldn't get interrupted in. Some changes to that.
Yeah. There was, I remember something OP with grit. There must have been something.
Yeah. Honestly, not sure.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then a bunch of balance changes to weapons. I'm not going to go through here, but definitely hatchet needed some change. Um Actually a lot of weapon changes relating to their skills or talent line.
Yes. Yes.
Just full on reworks almost of it. Like hatchet losing.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
changes here. A lot of new passives,
right. So builds
new
that we had
abilities.
played when we played in the second iteration pretty much won't exist or don't exist
Yes.
anymore.
This will be
Um,
all new once we get to play again.
all new. For the better? We don't know. We don't know. Hopefully for the better. For balancing.
I'm itching to try it out.
Of course.
Try
Where's
some.
that
Try
invite?
some. I mean, no. I'm like, I try out the different weapons and see where they land,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Because last time, really, the only things we did use in the end were the hatchet and the bow.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Yep, yep. It's too OP then.
The
So
hammer had its purpose, I guess. There was a warhammer, a big one.
it was good for PvE.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not really for PvP unless you were doing the 50 versus 50 and just
yeah.
CCing that way.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what we get.
Yeah, just a lot of changes, a lot of overhauls with the talent trees for each weapon type. Did
Yes.
they add new weapons? I think they did, didn't they?
I
Any of these
am not
sound
sure.
unfamiliar?
Nope.
Musket, bow, spear,
So
warhammer.
there's not a lot of
This is
different weapon classes in the game, I
yeah. I
will
think
say.
they are adding more though for sure. I think we'll be able to see those in the July beta.
I hope so, but I mean, they all have a lot of content that comes with them, right? In terms of the talent trees and those kind of things. So we'll see. We'll see if we get more, but we haven't really gotten more in the past year or so, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, final thoughts on this hefty patch notes.
Well, I want to dive in. um, I think while the zones that they mention are, I'm sure they're interesting and they matter once you get in game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly excited to try out what the weapons feel like now, and more importantly, the difference in attribute scaling. I think if there's more pronounced effect of those, and you really have to make your build work and maybe
Yeah.
focus on the type of weapon, I think that will be interesting.
Yeah. I think I agree. The build diversity is something that's really important to me for someone who is very into the ARPGs in general and doing builds.
Yeah,
Um, so if you can figure out like a really nice build or that'll counter somebody else's build, that's super cool to me.
I will say disclaimer. I'm probably still gonna go for the hatchet because the hatchet is the coolest weapon.
I don't know. They might have one of the new ones be the cooler weapons.
I don't think so. It's hard to beat a hatchet.
I mean, oh yeah, because you do like Hatchet,
I
Gloomhaven.
do like
Yeah,
hatchets. Yeah, yeah.
you do have
My
a
favorite
character
hatchet.
named Hatchet in
True,
Gloomhaven who
it's true.
throws hatchets. So I mean, maybe you are destined to be a Hatchet player.
Maybe we'll see.
Unless it's the
Unless,
most nerfed weapon ever and
yeah.
it's just the F tier of all weapons, then I don't think
Disclaimer
you'll.
to the
Yeah.
disclaimer: it still has to be the meta.
All right. Well, we're both excited for the game. Maybe we'll cover the newer patch notes in the future.
All right. Here's a question:
Yeah.
If this game come, if this game comes out,
If it comes out, it has
and
been
when it
delayed.
does, And when it does, are you going
Yeah.
to take time off work? Is this the type of
Um,
game that you would take time off work?
well, historically, with first day launches, not been very good for
I didn't
MMORPGs.
say take the first day off.
Okay, well, maybe, maybe. We'll see whether we're still understaffed at work or not.
Right. I mean, if you
Yeah,
could, but
yeah, for sure. I think I
I
will
think
if
I think this is
yeah.
that type of game where I would enjoy those first few
It
days.
is, yeah, because everybody's starting out new and fresh. Everybody's at the starting zones. There's probably going to be more PvP action because everybody's in that same level
Yep.
range.
Yep.
It's a whole lot of fun. Well, as most
I agree.
MMO launches are, despite whether they are terrible MMOs or not. It's just fun to be
That's
in
true.
that same
That Zerg
environment.
rush
Yeah,
of everybody and finding out about those things.
yeah.
Yep.
Everybody just not knowing what's going on. Great. Yeah,
I'm
looking
looking
good.
forward to it.
I'm feeling more comfortable with their vision for the game. They're definitely leaning on the PvE part of it, which for me as a mostly PvE player, I'm happy about. I like dungeons, and an MMORPG without a dungeon to me is very lacking and not fun. That's why I didn't play
I
Black Desert Online that much because it didn't have any dungeons. Um,
that's true. That's
yeah,
true. I know what you mean.
yeah.
But circling back to that PvE focus, would you still be interested in this game if the PvP was struck from it?
If it was just completely not in the
Yeah,
game at all, yeah, I don't
you
need
would?
PvP. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I could totally play this just not flagged at all. That's how I played EverQuest. That's how I played World of
I
Warcraft. So,
I know. But those
um,
games are a
yeah,
little different. I don't know. I feel like they're
yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
different.
I know.
To me, it was still a part that made it more enjoyable.
Yeah, it lends a certain excitement to your
Yes.
adventuring, you know, to
Yeah.
your questing and adventuring.
And yet
I
at
get
the
it.
same time, I would say it's still protective enough of the PvE player that if you're interested in the game itself, but really don't want to deal with PvP, that's okay, and you'll still have fun in this game. I think,
Yeah, yeah. It'd
at
be
least
one
in
of
their
those.
duration that we know.
Yeah, it could be one of those games that just turns a completely PvE person to PvP just because it's optional. You get to choose when you want to do it. Maybe it's exciting enough for them that
Yeah.
they want it, they crave it.
Or maybe you lose your hundreds of iron ingots on day one and you never do it again.
Maybe. Never know.
Maybe. Yeah,
That's the fun of PvP, I suppose.
it is.
Well, I'm
Or
glad they haven't
sometimes
cut
not.
it. It's it's the diversity is great. Um, so it's still in here. It's some iteration, not as cutthroat as originally intended,
No.
but it's still there, still pumping.
Yep. And overall, I mean, what we haven't talked about is the game still. We did talk about how it looks, right? It looks great.
Yeah, it looks great.
It it runs really well. I felt.
Yeah, I don't think I had any issues with running it.
No lag, no FPS issues in that sense. So both
Hmm.
latency and technically,
Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of reasons to give it at least a try. I think.
I agree. Is it buy to play?
I'm
I think
looking
it's buy
forward
to
to it.
play, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's $40.
$40, yeah, not bad.
No, no,
Considering we bought Outriders for $60, which isn't a live service game.
definitely. Yep, yep. I
So
mean,
I think you're getting your deal for $40 for a live service MMORPG that's going to have
yes.
content updates along the way.
I really hope they pull through with this one. Um, yeah.
I agree. We need a new MMO out there.
And until then, I hope we get some more patch notes.
For sure. I think there is another one that's been released, so next time we'll dive into that.
All
I
right.
don't think as
I'll be
big
here
as
for it.
changes as this one, but well, we'll discuss it next time
All
on
right.
this so far unnamed podcast. first
Send your
episode.
suggestions into chat.
Yes, send your suggestions. This is going up on YouTube. Subscribe if you want to. Hit that like button. Oh God, I'm doing this
Oh
spiel.
no, I
Oh no,
condone
I'm,
none
I'm
of this. I
becoming,
condone none of it.
I'm becoming a YouTuber. All right, guys, have a good one. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.